sure you can understand that we're in sort of an information blackout where DOJ refers us to the special counsel. They're not holding any briefings. White House counsel refers us to DOJ. So if you are not able to talk about this from the podium, would you invite a DOJ official to take our questions here to the briefing room?
No, you would have to go to the Department of Justice.
I thought that was actually a reasonable question. I thought maybe there was a chance she would say that is something that the White House is looking at right now. But either way, the White House struggling to defend President Biden as we enter day number 9 of the top secret document story that first broke last Monday.
And joining us now for more is Tennessee Congressman and member of the House Financial Services Committee, Andy Ogles. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. You were one of the first to claim President Biden and former President Trump's destinies were intertwined. How do you see this playing out?
Well, I think the problem that you're going to have with any type of Biden prosecution is you have no chain of custody for the documents. There's nobody, there's no law enforcement present. You have attorneys that are sifting and sorting through these documents. And so there's no way that you can have any sort of prosecution. And so if you're going to give Biden a pass, you have to give Trump a pass.
Okay, so the Washington Post, and they're always going to defend the administration. We know that. Interesting proposition yesterday. They basically said that both cases against Biden and Trump should be dropped, and they should pull a James Comey special, basically do a Comey-style report like they did with Hillary Clinton and let the voters decide. Could something like that happen? And if that does happen, who would that help or hurt more, Biden or Trump?
Well, I think at the end of the day, what's really important what do the American people want and what's in the best interest of the American people. And I think the American people are ready to move on from these arguments, these conversations. And look, we have a porous border. We have a deficit and spending that's out of control, inflation and recession. That's what American people are worried about, not whether or not, Biden had some documents or Trump had some documents in their respective homes.
Yeah, sir, I think, the media obviously wants to know, what were in these documents, and how many were found. I think the big concern for a lot of people is who had access to these?
Well, I think the big difference between the Trump situation is, that is a secured facility. There's guards and cameras everywhere. And you literally have Biden has a box of documents in his garage next to his Corvette. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. Look, I need to clean out my garage, too, but there's no top secret documents in there.
Right. Congressman, when Joe Biden took office in January 2021, the White House made it clear, they made a point to tell the American people that they were going to be transparent no matter what. Take a look.
When the president asked me to serve in this role, we talked about the importance of bringing truth and transparency back to the briefing room.
The Vice President Harris and I and our entire administration will always be honest and transparent with you about both the good news and the bad. I will commit to transparency, and as soon as I am in a position to be able to implement what we're doing right now.
The fact that he spoke to all of you reporters who report on this, and then you all reported on it back to the American people, I believe that is transparency.
Well, they've all got egg on their face now, Congressman. How foolish does the White House look to the American people right now?
Well, the idea that this administration has been in the business of truth and transparency is absolute nonsense. I mean, they tell us that the border is secure, that it's not a national security issue, but yet we know that we have people on the terror watch list that have been apprehended on a southern border. We know that 60% of the women and children that cross that border are sexually assaulted. We know that the cartels control the southern side of the border and literally shoot at our patrolmen and at our personnel, at our drones. It's a war zone down there, and yet they say it's safe. They lie and they obfuscate, and this is just the status quo for the administration.
Congressman, I know that you, before you were elected to Congress, you ran a nonprofit to fight human trafficking along the border. Of course, that happens, at the southern border, the majority of it. Kamala Harris is going back to Arizona today, but she's not visiting the border. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post and said, look, we need somebody appointed by the White House to handle the border. Well, that's Kamala Harris. She was appointed border czar 2 years ago, but she's doing nothing to try and solve the problem. Why?
Yeah, You know, obviously we have an immigration problem in this country. Obviously, we need to address and fix the immigration issue, right? But when you look at the southern border, you've got 3 lanes that you can take a position on. One is the economics, right? You have these small communities that are being overrun. There's a financial burden there. You've got fentanyl that has swept the country. Where now every small town in America is now a border town because of fentanyl. And then you have the humanitarian crisis. And look, I just was literally talking to a colleague that's on the southern border just a few days ago, and there was a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old girl, and they were naked, they were dehydrated, and they'd been left for dead after they'd been gang raped. That's what's going on the southern border. So whether your issue is homeland security, whether it's economics, or whether it's to stop the humanitarian crisis taking place, we have to close the border, and that should be a bipartisan issue.
Wow.
Absolutely. All right, Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles, thank you so much for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. Your retirement funds are being threatened with even more losses from record inflation, recession, and skyrocketing interest rates. Fortunately, the highly trained specialists at American Hartford Gold can show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. If you call them right now as a special offer, they will give you a free gold coin on your first qualifying order, so don't wait. Call 866-935-4309. That's 866-935-4309, or text Newsmax to 65532. That's Newsmax to 65532.